Katelyn's personality was she was just passionate about everything, about her life, her career, her friends and family, her fashion. I mean, she danced all the time and made funny faces and just made everyone around her laugh. Her laugh was absolutely contagious. That was one of the things that, I'll always remember about her was her laugh. She was always complimenting you or your belongings, your jewelry or your coat, your pants, shoes, whatever. She loved music. She loved her animals. If she didn't like something, she wasn't afraid to let you know. She loved adventure. She loved going places and meeting new people. And she never spoke bad about anyone, and she never gossiped. Katelyn was always drawing. She would come over. I had notebooks just for her to draw in. She would fill them up with, just like things people would say. She'd draw it up and make it look cool. Just random things that popped into her head. She loved to draw eyes in different ways. I had markers and paints and pencils and all kinds of stuff, and she'd just always draw. And even like the stuff that she made at school, she was so proud of. She would bring me things from school, and I'd always hang them up and have them around me. She knew that was something that I loved to have, was artwork from my friends and people that I cared about. She loved her artwork. That was one of the things that she was most passionate about. She made it her career. One thing I remember most about the way Katelyn dressed was it was crazy in a good way. She could pull off anything. I had a family friend that knew her not by her name but by the way she dressed. It was kind of funny, actually. She could wear like green rain boots and a red jacket and make it look awesome. She loved big jewelry that would look gaudy on someone else, but she totally rocked it. She wasn't afraid to do things that most other people wouldn't. Like one year in high school, she cut the top of her hair into like a mohawk and left the rest of it long, and it looked awesome. She just had a sense of fashion, that no one else really could pull off. One of her favorite songs was that I can remember specifically was Art Star by the AAS.
I got a gallery in New York. It's a madhouse. This modern life, it's a madhouse. My faithless bride.
You can purchase this whole song on iTunes or wherever you listen and purchase music. The song was Art Star, and the band, Yeah Yeah Yeahs. Thanks to Amber Morgan for sharing her memories of Katelyn. This is Gone at 21, Katelyn Markham's death investigation. You can now support this podcast by going to patreon.com/Gone at 21 or go to the Gone at 21 Facebook page, and there you will see a link pinned to the top of the wall. Press the link, and any donation will be greatly appreciated. Thanks for your support. After returning from my third trip to Ohio, I met with the benefactor. And of course, I was expecting him to take a couple months off from the case, but he told me he was done permanently with my investigation. Well, the third time was a charm. He wasn't kidding this time. He told me in December of 2015, and to date, he has not given another penny to my investigation. So, I have been financing it myself. This goes against my business model in every way. I am running a business and have to get paid to survive. It's like someone going to work and paying their employer. I have never done this before, and I doubt I will ever do it again. I think the reason I continue to do this case is because of David Markham. David Markham has become a friend and needs my help. If I don't do this for him, who will? I connected with Dave first as a parent on a father level. I have a son and can't imagine this happening to my child, much less having to fight for a competent investigation. I felt compelled to help find out what happened to Katelyn after the benefactor pulled out. I continued to push for information in early 2016, and then it came. I asked several people for their phone records from August of 2011, and I got a goldmine of information that would reshape the entire timeline of the investigation as I knew it. I did stay in contact with the benefactor and kept him informed on what was going on. I guess I wanted him to come back on board. Unfortunately, the benefactor found it okay to give all my interviews from my investigation to one of the witnesses in the case. He also shared with this witness all my new evidence, including the timeline. He also shared how much he paid me. I found out the benefactor was supporting this witness monetarily. He was also sending money to other people close to the case, and those individuals were not related to Katelyn in any way. I had a non-disclosure with the benefactor, but it was only good while we were in a contract. He paid me everything he owed me, and I gave him all the information I gathered up until the last interview I conducted in December of 2015. So we were not still in a contract. But I thought he cared about the investigation and finding justice for Katelyn. If this information leaked and got back to John, I could kiss my last interview goodbye. I called the benefactor and left a blunt message. I also texted him and told him what I thought about what he did. All I can remember about that text, without looking at it, was me saying, "Fuck you." At this point, I was done with this guy. I will never work for him again. The timeline changed, and I found something that was not possible in John's story when he went to check on Katelyn at her townhouse and found her missing. I shared this information with the Indiana State Police Detective Vance Patton, who spoke to Butler County Sheriff's Office about it as well. I was convinced that the text messages would be the key. I concentrated way too much on the text messages, and some of those texts were deleted. Just wait until you find out which texts were deleted. It's very interesting. I also focused too much on Saturday the 13th. At that point, I had just skimmed the call records and hadn't even looked at the 14th. After a day or two, obsessing over the text messages, I sat down with the call log. I looked, and nothing popped out right away, because I was looking at Saturday. Then I saw it. Knowing John Carter's first interview by heart, I obsessed over that as well. I often listen to interviews multiple times, so I know it by heart, and I don't have to re-listen when something doesn't sound right. I listened to John's first interview about 24 times. I know what happened Saturday and Sunday, in John's words, extremely well. I couldn't believe I was looking right at it. Ironically, I noticed it when I was using the bathroom. Okay, I probably didn't have to mention that, but those records went everywhere with me. I was constantly reviewing them. There it was in black and white. Unfortunately, you will have to wait until the breakdown to find out what that was, and if it ended up pushing the case forward or not. I needed to go back to Ohio. Remember, this was early 2016. I needed one more interview with John Carter. Why one more? Because the investigation is going from an informational phase to a fact versus statement, which don't add up. And John could very well take it as accusatory. Knowing John, once you start stating facts, he's out. How do I know this? Well, in mid-2016, the Butler County Sheriff's Office went and got John for questioning. John followed the detectives down to the sheriff's office where they conducted an interview. Karen Winkler called me and said she was on her way down to the sheriff's office. John called her and wanted her there. Karen asked if I knew they were going to interview John that day, and I said no, because I didn't. I knew they wanted to interview him, but I wasn't in the loop as to when they were planning on doing it. To tell you the truth, if Karen didn't call me, I wouldn't have had a clue they were interviewing John that day. After Karen arrived at the sheriff's office, we got off the phone. A little while later, I called Karen back, and she said John was walking out as she was walking in. That was a short interview. In fact, John lawyered up after he ended that interview. Karen wouldn't go into detail, so I called John. I had been communicating with John by text and phone calls since our first interview, but I needed another face-to-face interview with John. I was hoping that lawyering up thing didn't include me as well. John answered my call and was not happy at all. We spoke for a few minutes, and he told me he would speak to me but would not speak with law enforcement anymore. He made it clear if I started asking about stuff he didn't like or accusing him of stuff, he would walk out on me as well. I told him I understood. I, at this point, wanted to allow several months to go by before going back to Ohio for that final interview. This will allow time for John to put the interview from the sheriff's office behind him so he wouldn't carry that bad experience over to my interview. John didn't indicate anything I found was asked of him in that sheriff's interview. That was a good thing. During my December 2015 visit to Ohio, I received a Facebook message from a producer from a nationally syndicated TV show. He wanted to talk about Katelyn's case, but didn't follow up. I did follow up a couple months later. He said another producer pitched the case before he did, so that producer would be contacting me. We made arrangements in September of 2016 to meet in Ohio in October. I knew I was going to be interviewing John and told the producer, who cleared the undercover video cameras and audio equipment with the company's legal department. I was set. The next trip to Ohio would be in October of 2016. I arrived in Ohio and met with the field producer from the show. His name was Steve. We went over the logistics with the camera and sound crew about where the cameras would go in the conference room where I would be interviewing John Carter. After a trip to Indiana, where Katelyn's remains were found, with the TV crew and Vance Patton, Lisa and I returned to the hotel and prepared for my interview with John. Karen Winkler showed up first, and then John followed a couple minutes later. There was a undercover camera under a coat on the stack of chairs just a couple feet away from the table we were sitting at. Another camera was hidden in the window curtains just behind where I was sitting. There was a microphone stuck in the ceiling vent right over our heads, and I was wearing a portable microphone. The receiver was stuck in my boot with my pants leg over it, and just before Karen walked in the front door of the hotel where I was meeting her, the receiver fell out of my boot onto the floor. I stuffed it back in and pulled my pants leg over just in time. After John showed up, we started the interview. I had 2 recorders of my own placed on the table in plain sight. I did ask if he realized he was being recorded, and he confirmed that. We're going to listen to some of that interview today, but several portions will be withheld for the breakdown portion of the podcast, which will start in a couple weeks. The first portion of the interview is John actually listening to his first interview instead of him repeating himself on a story that he's told probably hundreds of times, I allowed him to listen to it. And I gave him direct instructions. If he heard something that wasn't consistent, to stop me and explain. And of course, I was recording him listening to his February 2015 interview. And of course, he makes comments. So in this portion that we're going to listen to in this episode, most of the time John is listening to his own interview and making comments. And of course, we stop at some time, but it gets pretty important at the end of this episode that you're paying attention. In this clip, I was setting up my recorder, so excuse the shuffling sound. This is J. Ryan Green with J. Ryan Investigations. The time now is 6:31 p.m. It is October 4th, 2016. I'm here with John Carter and Karen Winkler. So John, what I was explaining to you, or actually, you're aware, obviously, you're being recorded. Okay. And so what I want to do is I want to just go ahead and just go ahead and let you listen to this. And like I said before, if you hear something that doesn't mesh or is a little different than how you remember it, let me know.
I got a little...
Hang on a minute. Let me know, and I'll stop it.
Okay.
And then you can correct it.
Who was there, and
this was our first
kind of
time.
take us through the evening, if you would. That night it was me, Katelyn, and Brad at Katelyn's house. Katelyn was on her computer. She was doing homework or something. I remember that Batman Begins was on. I was talking to Brad. I think subject about getting mushrooms or something came up.
I don't even remember.
I remember smoking with Brad, smoking with Katelyn. We were all sitting around. Katelyn just pretty much stayed on her computer, and me and Brad talked most of the night. I don't really remember everything we talked about. Brad said he wanted to leave, so he left. Shortly after that, I was just sitting there watching the end of Batman, and I got a little bored. I told her as such. I said I was bored. I said I wanted to go do something. She said she had to stay home. She was a little upset. But on my way out the door, she had her bank documents that she had been collecting and putting together to throw away, set on fire.
I just want to stop you there because he said she was a little upset. And I want to clarify, and I want John to clarify what she was a little upset about.
Because I said I was bored. Because I said I didn't want to...
Yeah, you say that later on.
Okay.
Yeah, he clarifies it himself.
She wanted to get rid of that. I picked up as...
What woman wouldn't?
Oh, God, yes.
I'm
but
bored.
And that's the thing, is so many times people will say, well, what was she upset about? Did you get into... They'll come up with all these questions that it's like, no, you're not even listening to what he's really trying to say.
Right.
So I just kind of feel like...
Right, exactly. Let me...
Sorry about that.
That's okay. This thing doesn't...
I'm sorry about that, but I'll continue to do it.
That's okay. Come on.
She said she had to stay home. She was a little upset. But on my way out the door, she had her bank documents that she had been collecting and putting together to throw away, set on fire. She wanted to get rid of that. I picked up those, as I told her that I was leaving, as I went to leave, she picked up the bag. It was like an Abercrombie and Fitch bag. She said, I need to burn these. And I just grabbed them out of her hands and I said, I'll take care of it for you. It's okay. And she got a little huffy. And then I said, I love you. Sorry. I got all kind of sarcastic attitude sort of thing. And she always laughed at that stuff. So she laughed. I gave her a kiss. I left. I kind of felt bad because I left it like that. But I still went over to my friend Travis and Carrie's house. I don't know if it was both of their house at that time, or if they were together at that time. I can't remember.
What's Travis's last name?
Law. I went to Travis's house. I picked up the bag out of my car. I brought it to the backyard. I set it in the fire pit, and I went inside. I told him that I wanted to burn that stuff, and that afterwards we can sit and hang out and stuff. So I burned that stuff. My friend Joey Schaefer, I think Josh Shank, and somebody else was outside watching it burn. I was moving the stuff around, and while I was burning all of that stuff, Katelyn texted me and said, "Hey, what are you doing?" I said, "I'm burning your bank statements and stuff." She said, "Oh, I really wanted to be there to see it." I said, "I'm going to have to do it for my stuff, so when I collect my bank statements, we can burn mine and we can watch that together," or whatever. And she wrote back a series of M's, like, like, sure, whatever. And then she had sent me a picture that her boss from Art Beyond Boundaries had taken of her. She had been wanting to show me the pictures. I knew that she wanted me to see the pictures, and I guess she had forgot to show me when I left because we were mad at she was upset with me for saying I was bored. So she took a picture of it. I love the picture, and I don't remember if I said anything back to her after the picture. I went inside. I hung out with my friends for a while. I can't remember exactly what time I left anymore. Shortly after I went home, on my way home, or when I got home, I came in. I went upstairs. I watched some TV. Went on the internet for a bit, and then went to bed.
Okay, and then going into the next day when you woke up.
When I woke up, I don't remember exactly, but I woke up in the evening, afternoon time. I slept in.
It was like right before work, so I had to be in.
Say it again?
It was right before work, so I know I had to be in. I think I had to be in at like 5.
So you slept in, you went home, you sent text message to Katelyn.
Before he went home.
Before you went home.
Yeah, after he left.
Well, and I I do believe that I had sent her a message before I went to bed. Mm-hmm. But according to the Fairfield police, or according to my phone records, I didn't send her anything. But I could have swore that I had sent her a message.
I have
before.
those. Yeah, you did. There isn't anything. But
yeah, but I could have swore that I've done it. You know,
I've sent her a message or wrote her a message, and then the phone rings. I think I sent it. Mm-hmm. And then I go back
and that could be a possibility.
And I was like, "Did you not get my message?" No. And then I look back and say, "Oh, it's because I didn't send it."
Yeah, and that could have been the issue too. I mean, I really don't know.
I wanted to point out, when I write a text and don't press send for whatever reason, I can go back and see the text I wrote in the narrative. Even if I leave and do something else on my phone, the early morning text would have still been there the next time John texts Katelyn. And yes, he did text Katelyn after that phantom good morning message. Here is a fact I wanted to mention. John did send Katelyn a text in the early morning hours on the day before, which would have been the 13th. And of course, that evening of the 13th, she was last seen alive. Also, on previous days, there are texts that late evening, early morning, and they were texts from John to Katelyn. So it does appear John did text Katelyn a good morning message for her to read when she woke up. He just didn't do it the 14th, which is what he's talking about in this media clip.
I decided to send her a good morning text message, and normally when she wakes up, she's like, "Oh, thank you for the message, I love you, I miss you, blah blah blah," and I was like, and she didn't do that.
Why didn't John send a message to Katelyn that night? Was it that he thought he had already sent it, or was it because he knew she wouldn't answer? In my professional opinion, when you have a pattern of consistency, which John consistently, at least that month, sent her early morning text, except for the day he said he did, which was the 14th of August, 2011, and that pattern is broken, it becomes suspicious, especially if the person your pattern is with ends up missing and eventually found dead.
I also got all of his phone records and all of his text messages, and the 911 call never showed up on his phone record that he made a 911 call.
Right.
So those are, first of all, that's verifiable by the police department, and those are supposedly never missing. I even called the company.
The only reason we have the time for the 911 is because it was in the 911 center. I didn't see the 911.
Right, but he definitely called from his phone.
Right.
So all I'm saying is that, you know, 'cause she kept saying to me, well, see, it doesn't show up on here. And I said, yes, and neither does the 911 call. She goes, well, we know he made it. And I said, yes, that's what I'm trying to tell you. That's a call we know he made. Nobody's questioning that, and yet it doesn't show up.
Okay.
How can we say that just because something else isn't showing up, that there wasn't something else? So and again, it's neither here nor there. I'm just saying.
Right. Okay. The insinuation Karen made that because the 911 call doesn't show up, that John's early morning text may not show up either, per the phone company, is not correct. 911 calls do not show up on cell phone bills. In fact, a supervisor I spoke with told me 911 calls have never shown up on cell phone bills because it's considered a free call. And I've spoken to 3 different companies and 3 different supervisors. I have to keep moving it back.
I don't remember if I said anything back to her after the picture. I went inside. I hung out with my friends for a while.
Got from her?
I can't remember exactly.
From what I remember,
anymore.
Let's see what John said about the picture text when it was fresh in his mind, approximately 48 hours after Katelyn was discovered missing.
Blah, blah, blah. Then she sent me a picture of herself. It was like a picture of a picture. She's very artistic, and she loves to show me her work and stuff like that. So Katelyn sent me a picture of her, and that was the last message I got.
Let's listen to one more statement about the picture text being the last text during that same interview.
She sent me that picture message after that, and then nothing. Just nothing.
Let's hear when John said that picture message came in on his phone.
I remember looking at it, it said 12:52, but to be honest, those photos come in so slowly, it could have been way earlier than that she sent it.
There is a reason I played 3 clips in a row about the picture text and the time the picture text was received. Please keep that in the back of your mind. In 2011 and 2015 and 2016, John said the picture text was the last text he received from Katelyn. We will look into this claim and examine the time straight from the text records when the breakdown begins.
I slept in every day.
You're saying right before 5.
I woke up. I got ready for work. I just slept until I had to go to work because I had stayed up so late the night before. So I just slept until I had to go to work. So I just woke up, got my clothes on.
I really don't remember.
Didn't even shower. I just took off and went out the door. Went straight to work. Started working. I think I had taken an Excedrin or something before I had left, and those have way too much caffeine in it. Being really hyper. And it kind of made me jittery, like drinking too much energy drinks type of a thing. So I was just kind of like, I already felt weird. You know, it already felt weird in the air. And she hadn't said anything to me. I eventually, on a run or something, I text her, no response. Text her again, no response. Tried to call her, no response. I'm assuming at this point that she's at work. It's hitting 5, 6. We get to about 7, I think. I mean, I could be wrong. I'm pretty sure I went in at 5. Hit about 7. That's when she's supposed to be off. That's when she should have been walking out the door, and she should have saw her text messages and noticed that I was texting her, and she should have texted me back. By that point, that's when I started to worry. That's when I started to freak out, and that's when I expected that she wouldn't be home when I got home. She would be on her way home, and she would have texted me.
So, John said he slept until just before he had to go to work. He had to be at work at 5 p.m. Remember this time and his claim. If Katelyn got off at 7, she would be home or close to being home by the time John got to her house. How do I know this? Because I have the exact time. We will go over that during the breakdown. What did John say in 2011 about texting Katelyn on the 14th? Let's take a listen.
I kept texting her, no response. I call her, no response.
You guys were young, you texted all day long to each other?
Yeah, and I had sent her so many texts.
Remember those comments. I kept texting her and texting her. I sent her so many texts. Here's John's memory of going to Katelyn's house on Sunday to check on her and what he found.
I started to panic a little more as time went on. I went to my boss. I said, hey, I gotta go check on my girlfriend. I don't know what's going on. I don't know where she is or what's happening. I got in my car. I went straight there. I didn't even clock out or well, I think I might have clocked out, but I didn't give them my cash or anything. Maybe I didn't even clock out. I went over there. I think I was talking to Matt while I was driving, Matt Rokamp. And I saw between the houses, I saw a car. I saw her car, and that's where she parked. It was between the apartments. There's a gap there.
Why didn't she, let me ask you this real quick. Why didn't she park, I went there and I saw people just park right behind their back door. Why didn't she park it?
For Murphy.
Murphy? Okay.
Yeah, so Murphy.
Table and chairs.
Yeah, and there was a table and chairs there.
I don't even think that they were. Oh, I don't know if they were.
They had assigned parking places too.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Up to their doors now.
Okay.
I don't think.
Yeah,
They did back then too.
Yeah,
There were
not very many.
There were some that didn't. And occasionally her dad would park there, I think.
Okay.
So I saw her car there, and while I was talking to Matt, I went, oh my god, her car's still here. It shouldn't be here. Why the fuck is her car here? And so I was like, dude, Matt, I gotta go. I gotta figure out what's going on. I come around the corner. I go up into the parking lot. I park my car. I get out of my car. I go to the door.
Okay. So you see her car. You say, fuck, Matt, her car's still here. I gotta go. Mm-hmm. Okay, hang up the phone. You turn, stop sign's here. You turn the corner. You go up into the drive, mm-hmm. and you park. You walk across. Mm-hmm. Is that the way you remember it? Mm-hmm. Now, there was a reason I stopped the recording and verbalized what his steps were. He was detailed in that portion of the story, which was good for me. This section of the investigation is very important. Please listen to this maybe a couple more times. What did John do and what did he see once he got in Katelyn's townhouse? And is his story the same in 2016 as it was in 2011 and 2015? Let's listen. Okay.
I immediately put the key in the door, open the door, go inside, and immediately I go, Katelyn, where are you? Katelyn. And I'm calling out for her, and I'm walking through the house trying to find her, and I go straight up to her room. I open the door. I see Murphy, her dog, in there. I see all the poop on the floor, which indicates to me that he has been in there for a while. I see her purse on the bed. I see her keys, I think, out of her purse on the bed, or they were in her purse. I don't remember anymore. I immediately looked for her phone. If she left without anything but one thing, it would be her phone. She would always have her phone on her. So I was looking for her phone. Because if she did have her phone on her, then I could keep calling her, knowing that she may have her phone on her. If she didn't have her phone on her, then something's even more wrong than I expected. And I was looking for any glimmer of hope. I saw the cord, her charger, without the phone on the end of it. It was like she always draped it over the knob on her dresser drawer, or her nightstand drawer. And I just saw it hanging there, and I started to panic a little, but I just assumed she was maybe out on a blunt run, basically just driving around and smoking, So I called Mary.
I assumed she'd be with a friend, not like driving her car.
When she would go around and smoke with people. Katie Harris, Mary Holleran. So I called those two first after going downstairs and letting Murphy out.
And there could be a discrepancy there. I've actually been told that I did a different series of calls. Honestly, then and now, I really don't remember the order of which I called people.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I called many different people, and in that particular moment, in a state of panic, I'm not going to remember.
Well, let me show you what happened. So, like we said, you pull up, okay, say, Matt, I gotta go. Oh fuck, her car's still here. I gotta go, gotta find out what's going on. Click. I assume you roll up to the stop sign, you turn, you go in, you park. Mm-hmm. You go across
the parking lot.
Mm-hmm. You don't even check the door, you open and you go in, right? Mm-hmm. Okay. Now, I had a large presentation board with me that had my evidence versus John's statements on them. You hear me step away from the recorder, and that's because I'm going to the presentation boards and uncovering the first one to show John some times from the actual phone records. John mentions if her phone wasn't there, he could continue to call her. He was looking for any glimmer of hope. He said if her phone was there, then something was more wrong than he expected. But then said when he saw her phone wasn't there, he started to panic. Why? You said if her phone wasn't there, then you could still call her, and you were looking for any glimmer of hope. But if the phone was there, then something was more wrong than you thought. So why are you panicking? Why aren't you calling her phone? Also, the car being at the house when Katelyn was supposed to be home from work or close to being home from work, I would feel somewhat relieved if I were him and to know the car was there. She's home, thank God. But he said he panicked. My question again is why? Her car's there. If you're driving by and you see her car there, unless you've been inside or unless you know what happened to her, you would be thrilled. Oh, thank God I found her. So that should be someone's first thought is, oh, thank God she's home. John said he can't remember the order in which he called people 5 years later. It's not the order in which John calls people, but the time he calls people that I'm more focused on. You noticed I slipped his arrival at Katelyn's house in again, from when he hung up with Matt until he gets in the door. So, John tells me the story in February of 2015, and I confirmed it twice in October of 2016 in the same interview, after his initial statement. Please remember this part of the story, and the repetitiveness I use in confirming his story. In the breakdown, you will find out why I needed to go over it that many times. John certainly didn't expect the type of questioning he was getting in this interview. I had facts and I was comparing them with his statements. The problem? They weren't matching up.
Yeah, it does.
I'm sorry, Jay. This kind of feels a little bit interrogating.
John leans over to his mom and whispers, "This feels like an interrogation." Karen said, "Yeah, it does." Then he says to me, "I'm sorry, Jay, this feels a little interrogative." Yep, it did, and it was. Thanks for listening to Gone at 21, Katelyn Markham's death investigation. Please don't forget to like and subscribe. If you're listening in iTunes, please rate and review. Check out the Gone at 21 Facebook page for updates and bonus material. Remember, if you like what you hear and you want to support this podcast, go to patreon.com/Gone at 21. That's patreon.com/GONEAT1. Or link up by going to the Gone at 21 Facebook page. Until next time, I'm Jay Ryan. Take care.